like we said, one final audio check, and then we'll get into it. Cool. So we are learning Kenshi today. If the title of the stream did not give that info away already, there's a couple of good, even before we get into the practice mode, which we're going to begin our session in, and then we'll end our session in casual, and we'll move up to ranked if everything goes well today. So before you get started, there's a couple of I guess considerations that you want to make before you hard lock Mr. Kenshi. The most important of which, I think, before you get in is who is your cameo going to be. So there's a couple of good options that you can use. I've heard some buzz about Shujinko. I don't think he's amazing for Kenshi. Depends on your matchup. There are some matchups where Shujinko is better, some where he's not as good. Depends on who you're playing to determine whose abilities he's going to give you. So for me, for right now, I am going to come away from Shujinko. If you look, a lot of top players, namely Sonic Fox, are playing Kenshi Frost as their main team. Frost is pretty good because she gives you the freeze. She has good keep away tools, and Kenshi has good zoning, enough to take advantage of being at full screen, or what we would call a neutral reset. Really quick, this series, this Kenshi Chronicles, this Kenshi journey that we're going on, is going to be my approach from start to finish. I have a little bit of time on Kenshi, but all in all, he's definitely the character that I'm seriously considering playing the most and have spent the least serious amount of time learning. So we're going to start from as close to the beginning as I can, and we're going to roll all the way up through hopefully mastering and becoming an advanced Kenshi player, maybe even making it onto top 8s in some tournaments. So Frost is good. Cyrax is also very popular right now, though I do think that Cyrax is due for a nerf. He's just too good on too many characters. I don't see him maintaining his current power level, so just keep an eye out for Cyrax to potentially get patched. I am going to play Kenshi with Sub-Zero, though again, there are many other pretty solid options you could patch with them or pair with them. But I think Sub-Zero, for my money, is going to give me the most of what I'm looking for, which will be a few different things. So we're going to talk about some fighting game basics, and then we're going to get into some Kenshi specific stuff. I really picked Kenshi for a couple of reasons. I think he plays the game of Mortal Kombat 1 very well for what it is. He has strong damage, he has good moves, good strings. Good frame data is something that I think is really underrated. Kenshi has pretty fantastic frame data. He's safe on most of his options. And even options where he's unsafe, he's kind of safe. So he has just a great presence in the game as it stands. He has good combo damage. He has insane pressure, especially with Sento out. He has pretty insane pressure here. So he just has a lot of different ways to play the game at a pretty strong, pretty successful level. So there's a couple of kind of core concepts that I want to start with as we build on. So for those who have not played this game, I really cannot stress enough that Mortal Kombat 1 is probably the sharpest NetherRealm game that has ever been made, if I'm going to be honest. I didn't play Mortal Kombat 9. Maybe that game has a slot at the title. MK10 definitely had some pretty sharp moments, but I think Mortal Kombat 1, just due to the power of the cameo system, is the sharpest game. So I mean a couple of different things when I say sharp in this context. The main thing I mean when I say sharp is that you can see a very sharp, as it were, difference between higher level players and lower level players. And I think that's exacerbated in this game. There's definitely room in this game to be someone who plays fighting games for fun and does not take them too seriously, but there is a lot of room and focus and thought given to players who play this game or play games like this for money, for a career. There's a lot of depth on offer here in Mortal Kombat 1. So if you can't hear the clocking in the background, I normally play NRS or NetherRealm Studio games on what we call pad in the fighting game community, which is just the default controller that your system, in my case a PS5, comes with. I played MK1 on pad for the first for the first week. But I do own a hitbox and have decided that this is going to be the way that I play the game from here on out. There's a couple reasons for that, and I'm not saying you have to have a hitbox to play this game at a high level or be successful. I'm sure the top players still just use this pad. But for me personally, it's just for the characters that I wanted to play and the things I wanted to be able to do. Hitbox gives me a little bit more of what I like in this regard. So movement is a very critical piece of this game. I think more so than very many MKs that have come before. especially in MK11 where movement was so much slower, so much more sluggish. Movement in MK1, as you can see, is very important and very quick. You can move in and out of the screen of distance very quickly, and I'm doing a pretty sloppy job right now, but there are lots of different ways to take advantage of the characters having strong or weak movement. So someone like Shao, General Shao, I'm tempted to call him Shao Kahn, has a really good forward dash and then a really weak back dash, even if we just do the base without canceling it. You can see his back dash is pretty weak, and his forward dash covers a lot of ground. It takes about like 6 back dashes almost to get from up close to full screen. But then as far as forward dashes, he's in about 3. He's in the range that he wants to be in, about 3 forward dashes. Kenshi has pretty good movement both ways, which is a big part of why I want to play him. He can just move pretty efficiently. He takes about 4 dashes either way. Really 2, honestly. He can get in 2 dashes because he has such good buttons, which is the next thing I want to talk about. I'm not going to spend too much time. This is not a Kenshi guide, though if you are interested in the Kenshi guide, once we've completed this series, I would love to put a proper, in-depth Kenshi complete character overview together, like something almost like an hour long, an hour plus, a full deep dive into all the character has and all the possibilities that can kind of come from that. But these videos are meant to be a little bit shorter, a little more to the point, so we're going to cover some of the basics and get into more detail later. So Kenshi, by virtue of being the one and only what we call puppet character in the game of Mortal Kombat 1, at present, there may be more puppet characters. He is really strong, to be quite honest with you. There's not really any other way to put it. But he also lays a great framework for learning how to play Mortal Kombat 1. The nature of Mortal Kombat 1 as a game is one that Kenshi is intrinsically very good at because he is playing. Oh, it is negative edge. Because he is playing a different game, to be honest. There is no other character that is allowed to do the things that Kenshi is allowed to do, which makes him intrinsically pretty strong. So there's lots of different ways to actualize his potential, but he is playing a game in which everyone is a 2-person team. Every character comes in with a 2-person team, right? Yourself and your cameo is what they're called in this game. Everyone has a cameo, but not everyone has the ability to maintain cameo, I guess we would call presence, to the degree that Kenshi does, because he has 2 characters that are on screen at once. So we're going to go over some of the benefits and then some of the drawbacks of Kenshi being built in the way that he was. In our video tomorrow, our Kenshi Chronicles Part 2, we'll get into some more high-level concepts like your block pressure, Oki Zeme setups or wake-up setups. In general, right now, we're just going to cover the strength and the power that can kind of be accessed by having these 2 characters on screen at the same time. And then as a result, the strengths and weaknesses that are kind of intrinsic to that. So, as we said, Kenshi has 2 characters, 2 players. He has his Sento, or the spirit of his ancestors, and then obviously himself wielding a sword, which is an important thing to note, because in his default stance, Kenshi does not actually wield the sword nearly as much, or nearly, I should say, as directly as he does in his, what we call Sento stance. You can see he actually uses the sword for his attacks with the Sento spirit out, but then as well, even if the Sento spirit goes away, the sword itself does not. The sword itself stays out. We can bring Sento on over so you can see him disappear in just a second. But Kenshi himself still stays in this sword stance, which is one misconception that I had coming into this game, is that a character like this, in a stance like this, without the, what we would call the other half, the other part of the stance, right, the actual spirit of the ancestor, one would assume, based on previous knowledge, that this character is intrinsically weak, or we should say like missing pieces. He is definitely designed in this stance to be played with the puppet active, with the Sento spirit of our ancestors present. However, be under no illusions. This is a complete character. You can absolutely play games with the sword out in its entirety. Would I advise it? Not necessarily. I think the character as a whole is a little bit weaker than Kenshi with the sword put away by himself. However, The beauty of this is that we are not bound by the timer that is laid upon us for our cameo. So Kenshi, without the sword being equipped or without the sword out, has what we'd call some of the best neutral, or what at least I would consider some of the best neutral. He's able to use the, we would say the time where no one is being pressured, no one is being forced to block. So right now I'm making Shao block so we wouldn't be in neutral, but right now neither of us has landed a hit. Neither of us is at any advantage or disadvantage over the other. Kenshi plays this part of the game, I think, the best out of the current roster. I don't think there's another character in Mortal Kombat 1. I know we used to play Overwatch, I would assume, based on the Overwatch in your name. Kenshi plays neutral though better than any other character, just by virtue of the normals that he has, right? This beautiful telekinesis that he's able to take advantage of. He's able to play at ranges that other characters really can't contest at all. Even ranges like this, he's able to have a real hit threat and it's safe as well, which means that you can't hit him back before he can block, which is pretty powerful. And then of course he's got tools like the Spirit Drop, the Spirit Push, the Force Push, which is a different move, but it has a fantastic range. Again, he's just able to play this kind of mid-game, some might consider it, at a level that no other character can really contest, to be quite honest with you. Even General Shao, who I play and who I should, by all accounts and purposes, have pretty phenomenal range, phenomenal ability to control this space. You see Shao struggles at ranges where Kenshi is able to get his hit. Right, Shao does not have a button that can hit Kenshi here, but if we swap back over to Kenshi, Kenshi absolutely has buttons that can hit Shao. Mainly this back two, which is really the entire reason that I'm playing this character, that I'm learning him, because when I was fiddling throughout the characters, throughout the roster, I was looking for a character with what I would consider a strong mid. Because of the nature of this game, down pokes, this down square move, this down one as we call it in the MK community, is a really strong tool that is a universal tool that every character has. So you're able to steal your turn. So if you do something that would normally lead to you being punished, of which Kenshi is not necessarily a victim of that problem, he's almost always safe. He's got one move that's unsafe. So a move like that, a move like back 2-2, he's able to down jab and take back his turn. If I set Shao to do his reversal, we turn his reversal on, we will set it for, we're going to assume it is probably classic con. Yeah, that's going to be his high reversal. So if we do a move that's unsafe, well, because there's a gap in there, if we do a move that's unsafe, we can block. If we do a move that's safe, but we can always, with the exception of that move, because it's actually armored, we can poke him down, as you can see, and actually get below his attack, because it's a high in this instance. But any attack that he has, so Shao Kahn has a lot of great highs, not just the enhanced knee or the standing knee. He's got fantastic highs, great ways to poke at this, but Shao Kahn is very weak to this down one by virtue of not having any any mids to keep himself from being hit by an opponent who goes below his high. Kenshi, bless his heart, does not have this problem. Kenshi has a fantastic mid. He has a couple of fantastic mids that are useful, that are safe, that control space in a way that I was actually hoping to find from Shao Kahn. However, I found it here on our friend Kenshi. So this is the main reason why I'm here to play him. As well, the frame data on this move, or what we would consider the speed of this move, is really exceptional. It comes out in 12 frames, which is specifically 12/60ths of a second. But if you're new to fighting games, you can think of it as 12 seconds functionally. If you can equate frames to seconds in your brain, I think it makes it a bit easier to understand the principle. So I can hit you in 12 seconds, whereas Shao only hits in 13, or actually 14 for his mid, which is his back one, his back square attack. So those are just a couple of the reasons why I picked Kenshi. Although we all know that everyone loves a good combo, and my friend Kenshi is no slouch in that department as well. So Kenshi has a lot of ways, especially when Sento is active, to enforce really damaging, really deadly combos, which is another feature that I was excited to play General Shao for, and he still does that, but he can struggle a bit more than Kenshi can because Kenshi has this ability to convert off of pretty much anything if you've chosen the right cameo, the right partner to come in. So where Sonic Fox or other high-level players play a sub or a Frost Assist, I prefer Sub-Zero because he allows me to stay back and use my strength, which is this exceptional dropping, this overhead spirit attack. We can use this to control space and be unable to be hit back, right? If Shao does his ground pound as a reversal, we set Shao to do his ground pound, which his ground pound is a launching low, pretty slow. But if we set Shao to do his ground pound while we have this active, we hit him, and you see he cannot hit us. He actually did hit us. Now, of course, our ice armor wore off. But in a situation like this, I'm able to hit him, and he's not able to hit me at any range. I don't even take the damage from it. In addition to Sub-Zero giving me a little bit of health back. Sub-Zero gives me 1050 health, because your health in this game is dependent on your cameo pick. So that's the general theory of why I chose Kenshi and why I'm excited to begin this journey of learning him. However, now we are getting into some of the practical reasons why I think Kenshi is going to be very strong in the game as it currently stands. So we're going to set him to block, or not block, I should say. So Kenshi has access to some of the cheapest combos in the game. One of the things that you always want to consider when you're putting together a combo in MK1 is how much resource are you having to use in order to get your combo activated. If you're able to get your combo out with fairly little resource, then it is generally better than someone who has to spend a lot. So what are your resources in this game? You've got your cameo meter, and you have got your special meter, or your formerly super meter. So when you spend your super meter, that is generally a bit more valuable of a resource because it leads to greater opportunities for damage and other things than spending cameo meter. So that's why it's important to choose a strong cameo, because it's much easier to build cameo meter because it builds automatically. You can see once Sub-Zero disappears, the meter begins rebuilding automatically. Now, of course, we're in practice. I have it set to refill. However, it does start to refill instantly once your cameo has been used. You can see he knocks him down, and then the bar starts to tick back up. However, your super meter, although again we're in practice mode to where it automatically refills at the end of a combo, your super meter is much more expensive than, it's a fun interaction. Your super meter is much more difficult to rebuild, I should say, than the cameo meter. So any situation where you can depend more on cameos than on super meter is a good situation to be in. And of course, our friend Kenshi does that better than most other characters. He can get pretty intense damage for no super meter at all. So that's 420 damage, which is the combo that I was getting with Shao Kahn, for no super meter at all. And I actually have an opportunity to pressure Shao on Wake Up because the spirit of my ancestor is still out and is in fact right next to Shao Kahn on the other side of him, which means a couple different things can occur. So that combo, although a little bit tricky is to actually execute, is very valuable because you can see we get, again, what's called Oki in the fighting game community, or wake up pressure. Shao Kahn has to wake up, or General Shao has to wake up, has to stand up from being knocked down with two ninjas, or two, I guess we would call them samurai, standing on either side of him with a sword, one in hand, which allows us, the kind gentleman here, to hit him with different things, and that he has to block immediately upon waking up, and you can see how damaging that can be. So again, Kenshi, once he has released the spirit of his ancestor, is one of the scariest characters in the game, just by virtue of having damage, and not just damage, but also some insane pressure setups that are pretty tricky to get out of. And you can see some of this is comboing. A lot of this is actually comboing out. So we hit him for what ended up being about 80% of his life. So those are some of the things that I have noticed, that I've looked for, and that I've enjoyed about playing Kenshi. We'll get into a little bit more detail coming forward into the next couple days of the Kenshi Chronicles. I'd like to start each video with a little bit of time in the practice mode to help understand, or to help you guys understand my thought process, to help understand why I'm thinking about certain things the way I am. And then we're going to go into ranked and see if we can actually apply the stuff. It's very important not to just get the things that you see done in practice mode, but to actually apply them in a real match, in a live fire situation, if you will. So one time, just for continuity's sake, we'll show you the main combo that we'll be using for Kenshi. It's a pretty amazing combo, to be honest. I think it's just fantastic. So you'll do your sword strikes into your Sub-Zero cameo assist. You'll use the Sento Spirit to confirm, and of course we drop the combo. So I do think the combo is quite good. There's just so much that you can do to get the combo started. We're gonna get a little bit quiet so we can get this one out. But I really do think this combo is not only practical, but really cool to look at. I really do think this combo is easier than I make it seem. I just sometimes get a little nervous. However, this combo is pretty sweet. I think there's not many better ways to use a single piece of cameo meter. This combo is great. Combo is fantastic. Of course, that's why. It does help if you can perform under pressure, but we all know that's the signature, is choking under pressure. There you go, 423 combo damage, and then we wake up into pressure for our friend Shao Kahn. Alright, hopefully that makes sense when you see that later. Alright, so let's go into